Hey guys, and welcome to the first video of week 4. This week, I want to take a little bit of a step back and just do some basic, kind of a SQL revamp week. So I know for some of you, it's probably been a little bit since you took Database Management 1, and I know that just based upon some of the feedback I've been getting back, it sounds like there are different or varying levels of SQL experience. And so this week I just want to do I really just want to focus on refreshing SQL skills, so going over different topics. I think, what was I going to say? So so I completely lost my train of thought. I apologize. So I want to go over, I do want to clarify what primary keys and foreign keys are. Um, and then I want to go over, just some basic SQL syntax. Again, go over joins, go over some functions, go over updating and deleting, things like that. So in this particular video, we are going to go over select statements, and we're going to go over joins. And so before I jump into that, I just want to, because I actually got quite a few questions about primary and foreign keys last week. And so real quick, I just want to go over what a primary key is and a foreign key is. So if we pull all of our back, well, let's do this. Give me 1 second. Use Northwind. And then we'll comment that guy out. Bear with me, I'm a Mac guy, so sometimes the keyboard shortcuts on Windows throw me off. So we'll do select star from orders. So all of this is going to be executed in the Northwind database that everybody should have, keyword being should have, that everybody should have set up in week 1, and you should all have access to this if you want to play around. So if we look at the content in our orders table, you can see we have an order ID, customer ID, blah 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 blah. So actually, let's do employees, because I think employees is going to be a better table to explain this. So if we look at employees, we can see we have an employee ID, last name, first name, title, and just basic information about our employees. Now, if we look at the employees table in our little guy here that doesn't want to do what I want it to do. Whoops, come on. Oh, come on. So if we look at our table structure as it sits, you can see that we have employee ID as our primary key. And so if we look back at our data, what does this reveal employee ID about that column? Well, basically, it is an int, it is auto-incrementing, and it is unique to each row, right? So in cases like title or title of courtesy, or if we had a lot of employees, maybe hire date, birth date, things like that, you might have some duplicate rows. But with our primary key, really, it's our only true unique identifier for a particular row, right? So if I always grab, so if I do this, so if I say where employee ID equals 7, I'm always going to pull back Robert King. Doesn't matter how many rows are added, doesn't matter what is changed, whether his title changes or his title of courtesy changes or his city changes or his address changes. Employee ID 7 is always going to return Robert King. Now, so that's primary key. So now a foreign key is basically a reference to the primary key in one table inside of another table. And so if we look at orders, you can see we have an employee ID. So we have an employee ID with an integer stored in it, which is the ID of the employee. So, and if we look at our orders table, you can see that we have employee ID right here, which is a foreign key. And I might even be able to do this. What it might let me do is it might let me just do select all of them. I'll add all of them so we can actually look at this. Okay, so that might have been a mistake. Oh, okay, no, it wasn't. It wasn't a mistake. Okay, so if we look at orders, wherever it may be, yeah, orders right here, you can see that we have a foreign key back to employees, right? And so that is a primary key and a foreign key, if that makes any sense. So now I want to talk real briefly about select statements, and then in another video we're going to talk about, actually we'll probably talk about select statements. Well, where are we at on time here? Yeah, I'll talk about joins. So like I said, I want to talk about select statements, and then in the next video, well, in this video, I'll talk about select statements and joins. In the next video, we'll talk about updating, deleting, and inserting rows, as well as some functions. So just to get everybody back up to speed. So hopefully everybody remembers select star from a table, but we're going to bring it back to basics just in case we forgot. So what is a select statement in SQL? That is a statement to just retrieve rows of information. So a select statement is structured like this. So we're going to have select, and then we're going to have from table So we're going to do select, and we're going to select our columns, or we're going to do a star like we have here. So select either individual columns or all columns from tables where conditions are met. And so we'll add that in there. So let's say that I want to pull back the first name and last name of employees. So I'll do select first name, last name from employees. And you can see I pulled back first name and last name. So let's say, okay, so I've selected a couple columns. So let's say that I want to specify some conditions. So let's say that I want to pull back only the employees whose first name starts with A. First name like, so actually let's break it down Barney style first. Where first name, say I want to pull back all the employees whose name is Alice equals Alice. So as you guys can see, I've specified where first name equals Alice, and obviously we're gonna quantify our search condition with the equal sign, or if I wanted to do not equal. Actually, I think that still works, right? Yeah. So I can do a bang equal sign to do not equal, so give me everything that isn't named Alice. Or alternatively, I could do something like this. Oops. So I can do kind of a list. So I can also do, like I said, I can also do a list, and obviously these are um, text parameters, so they're surrounded by single quotes. Um, Now, the other thing I can do when searching for strings is that I can do um, this right here. Oops. Nope, 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 don't want to do that. So I'm going to omit the columns. I'm going to do a select star because I want to pull all the columns back. So let's go back to the example I started talking about where I wanted to find whose first name started with A. So I'll do where first name like a wildcard. So you guys remember the wildcard? Everything, if you guys remember the wildcard, so we have a character or a sequence of characters. If the wildcard is after the sequence of characters, it's going to find a string that starts with that sequence of characters. If it's before, we're going to pull back a string that ends in this sequence of characters. So if I do like RA, so this will pull back Laura and Laura, but it won't pull back Donna. Or what I could also do is I could wrap this in wildcards either way and pull back any employee whose first name has the characters, say EW in their name. So that is the wildcard. And then obviously you guys remember working with dates, so I can do hire date greater than 1992 08 01. So now I can pull back all the employees whose hire date is later than 1992. Or I can do that and pull back employees who were hired before August 1st of 1992. So, and yes, Northwind database is, I think this thing has been around for a while. I remember using Northwind when I went through this program, and I think I took this particular class. Actually, I don't think this class existed at the time I went through. I think all I had to do was Database Management 1. I don't think Management 2 was a thing. This is like circa 2012, so 6 years ago, and I was still using Northwind back then. So Northwind has been around for a while for sure, and we'll go ahead and just, I'm going to be uploading this SQL, so real quick, bear with me. I want to do, I want to just make sure that there are some examples included. Okay, so joins. So what are joins? Well, joins are basically a query that is pulling from 2 or more tables. So there are a few different kinds of joins. So the most common one that you're going to see is an inner join, and that is rows from both tables that match conditions. And so this is the most common one, and so this is what's a good example here? Let's say select star from orders O. You guys remember I can say orders as O, so I can give a table name an alias, or I can just say orders O, and that's just the as is implied. So orders O, join employees on O dot employee ID equals E dot employee ID. And then I'll add a where condition where employee ID equals 3. Whoops. So you can see we pulled back 127 rows, all of which Janet Lieberling, I think, was the salesperson that made this particular, well, no, it wouldn't have been Janet. Anyway, where employee ID 3 made all these sales. So you could see that, okay, I lied, it was Janet Lieberling. So you can see in an inner join, we're pulling back all of the rows that match the condition employee ID equals 3. Now, what is a left join? A left join pulls back all of the rows from the first table and rows that match conditions from the second table. So if we just plug in our, if we plug in our SQL from our inner join and we specify that it is a left join, now you'll see that should not have worked that way. Or no, not conditions. I'm sorry, or it doesn't match conditions where there is a match, right? So the problem is I don't think there's a way to do this because there's always a match in employee ID. Let me do this. Here's what I'll do. I got it. Tasks. I'm just going to take a quick backup of this. Destination. Yeah, that'll work. We'll do OK. Backup of Northwind successfully. So then you guys can just ignore me real quick. Delete star from employees where employee ID equals 3. And I don't need a star. I am stupid. Well, that's the problem. I'm trying to think if there's a better example of this in Northwind. Customers. Let's see here. Order details. Set star from order details. Ah, that's right. It's stupid. You guys remember the brackets? Problem is this is built too well. Anyway, okay, so let's pretend for a second that so we'll get rid of this condition here. So let's pretend for a second that there are cases where the employee ID is null in our orders table. So in that particular case, you would see that we would still pull back all of our orders, but we would only pull back reference the employees. In this part, you would see all of this here being null because there's no employee. So that's left join. So Right join is basically the opposite. Oops. Nope. 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 Come back. There we go. So we're going to pull back all rows from the second table and only rows that have match in first table. And a right join is going to look pretty similar to this. Unfortunately, Northwind is actually pretty well built, and I cannot seem to find an example of a I cannot seem to find an example of a left or right join that will return something that will actually show you guys what a left or right join is. So that to be said, that's the syntax for it. I'm not going to worry too much about it. Really, what we're mainly going to focus on in this class is going to be inner joins. We're not going to worry too much about the other ones. And there's also full joins as well, but we're not going to touch on those. So that is it for video 1, guys. Looking forward to video 2.